My mom and stepdad secretly spent all my hard-earned money to buy an apartment for their daughter, so I took legal action against them. Hey everyone! Before we dive into today's video, I've got some exciting news. I've launched a new Reddit channel. This time the background isn't Minecraft, but Subway Surfers with a Christmas theme to match the season. Be sure to check it out, subscribe, and join the fun. Links are in the description. See you there. Now, let's get into the story. Hey, everyone. I need to vent because I'm losing my mind over what just happened. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to post here. But when your own mother steals from you, where else can you turn? This isn't just a minor misunderstanding or a family disagreement. It's outright betrayal. I'm torn between being absolutely furious and completely heartbroken. Let me backtrack and explain everything so you can understand how it came to this. I grew up in what people call a blended family, which is really just a nice way of saying it was chaotic after my parents split up. I was 7 when they sat me down to break the news. They told me, "We still love you, but we don't love each other anymore." It was calm and unnervingly polite. No yelling, no drama. Somehow, that made it worse. They seemed so okay with it while I sat there clutching my stuffed rabbit, trying to figure out if this meant no more family movie nights. After the divorce, my dad moved into a small apartment while my mom stayed in our house. I split my time between them. 1 week with my mom, 1 with my dad. My dad was steady, dependable, and always made sure I had what I needed. My mom, though, was a different story. Not long after the divorce, she started dating this guy named Greg, who moved in pretty quickly. Soon after, my half-sister Bella was born. That's when I basically became invisible. Don't get me wrong, they didn't outright hate me, but it was clear I wasn't a priority anymore. Bella was their little miracle, and I was just the leftover kid. My birthdays were often forgotten, school events ignored. I still vividly remember waiting in the rain after a parent-teacher conference in 4th grade. I stood there for over an hour before finally calling my mom. Her response? "Oh, was that today?" Sorry, I was busy with Bella's playdate. By the time I was 12, I had basically moved in with my dad full-time. He saw how things were going and asked if I wanted to stay with him permanently. I didn't hesitate. My mom didn't fight it. In fact, she seemed relieved not to have to balance me with Bella and Greg. After that, I stopped expecting anything from her. No calls, no texts, nothing. It was like I had been quietly erased from her life. Fast forward to now. I'm 27, working hard at a job in finance, and I've saved up every spare penny to finally buy my first house. I haven't heard from my mom in years. She didn't care when I graduated, didn't check in when I got a job, and certainly didn't ask about my plans. Then, out of nowhere, she called me last month. "I've been thinking about you," she said. "We should have dinner. I miss you so much." She said it as though we'd spoken just last week instead of almost a decade ago. I was thrown off, but agreed to meet. I'm not sure why. Maybe I wanted to believe she'd changed. Or maybe I just wanted to see what she really wanted. Because knowing her, it wasn't just to catch up. Dinner was strange. Mom and Greg were unusually interested in my job, asking oddly specific questions about my salary, savings, and plans. At one point, Mom said, "You've always been so good with money. You must be doing great." Bella, now in college, chimed in without looking up from her phone. "Still in that tiny apartment? I thought you'd have upgraded by now." Greg leaned in, trying to sound casual. "So, you're saving for a house, right? That's a smart move. Real estate's a great investment." He shot a quick glance at Mom, and Bella added, "Yeah, houses are so expensive. Even the apartments near my campus are ridiculous. Must be nice to already have the money figured out." The whole conversation felt staged, like they weren't just curious. They were fishing for something. Greg sighed dramatically. Must be nice to have a steady paycheck. Some of us aren't so lucky. Mom gave him a sharp look but didn't say anything, instead turning to me with a sickly sweet smile. Honey, it's so impressive how responsible you are. I bet you've saved quite a bit, haven't you? I shrugged, trying to downplay it. I'm doing okay. Bella snorted, still scrolling on her phone. Okay, sure. You've probably got a fortune saved by now. What's your rent? I bet it's a lot for such a tiny place. It all felt rehearsed, like they had planned this conversation to corner me. I left dinner feeling uneasy, and even checked my bank account the next day, just in case. Everything was fine. I told myself I was overreacting. Then, last week, I went on a work trip overseas. When I landed and turned on my phone, I was bombarded with notifications, banking alerts, one after another. Panicked, I logged in to check, and was met with a horrifying sight. My savings account was empty. Everything I had worked so hard for, carefully saved, was gone. Zero balance. It felt like the floor had vanished beneath me. My chest tightened, and my mind raced as I scrolled through the transactions, desperate for answers. That's when I saw it. My mom's name. My own mother had drained my account. I stared at the screen in disbelief. How had she even done this? I never shared my banking information or left anything lying around. Yet there it was. Thousands of dollars. Transferred out in chunks. I don't know what to do. Part of me wants to storm over there, shove my phone in her face, and demand to know how she pulled this off. How could she betray me like this? But another part of me is screaming to skip the confrontation altogether and head straight to the police. She doesn't deserve a conversation, right? After what she did, she doesn't deserve even a shred of trust. Then again, what if there's some kind of explanation? What if confronting her gives me the answers I need? Or worse, what if she somehow talks her way out of it, like she's always managed to do? What if I wait too long and lose my chance to pursue legal action? I feel stuck, torn between wanting to hear her side and knowing deep down that it's probably a waste of time. One thing's for sure, she doesn't get to keep my money. There's no way I'm letting her get away with this. But right now, I'm completely lost on what my next move should be. Do I confront her? Go straight to the authorities? What if I make the wrong choice and she finds a way to twist the situation to her advantage? I'll figure it out. I have to. For now, I just needed to get all of this off my chest. My mind is racing, and I need a plan before I take any action. I'll keep you all updated. Cool! Update 1. Hey again, everyone. First of all, thanks so much for the overwhelming number of comments on my original post. I didn't expect so many people to care, but reading through your advice helped me find some clarity. As promised, I'm back with an update now that I've uncovered more details about what happened. After staring at my empty bank account and resisting the urge to throw my laptop across the room, I decided my first step had to be contacting my bank. I needed answers about how this even happened. The customer service rep was polite, but clearly treading carefully, like they were worried I was about to explode. I explained that a significant amount of money had been transferred without my permission, and asked them to walk me through what they could see on their end. They confirmed that the transactions had been made online using my login credentials. I was baffled. How could this be? I've never shared my banking information with anyone, not even my dad, who I trust completely. I asked if they could identify the device that accessed my account. After putting me on hold for what felt like forever, they returned with an answer. The logins came from a device flagged as previously authorized on my account. That's when it hit me. A couple of weeks ago, my mom had been over at my apartment right before the dinner where she got strangely interested in my finances. While I was in the kitchen making coffee, she had used my bathroom. At the time, I didn't think anything of it, but now it's starting to add up. Here's what I think happened. While she was in the bathroom, she must have grabbed my phone. I don't use biometric security, don't judge me, and my banking app logs in automatically. She could have accessed it, noted my account details, and mentally saved the information. As wild as it sounds, it's the only thing that makes sense. She had no other way of getting that information. After getting off the phone with the bank, I called my dad to explain what was going on. He's always been my go-to for advice, and I needed someone to assure me I wasn't losing my mind. When I finished telling him everything, he went quiet for a long time before finally saying, "You need to go to the police." I wasn't ready to take that step. Not yet. After all, this was my mom. I didn't want to believe she'd planned this. Maybe it was some kind of misunderstanding. Maybe she intended to borrow the money and hadn't told me yet. I decided I needed to confront her first, to hear what she had to say. So, I drove to her house, screenshots of the transactions saved on my phone, ready to demand answers. Greg opened the door, wearing that smug expression I've always hated. Honestly, I almost turned around right there, but I'd come too far to back out. "Is Mom home?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "She's inside," Greg replied, stepping aside like he knew exactly why I was there. I found her in the living room, casually flipping through a magazine like she didn't have a care in the world. When she saw me, she smiled brightly and said, "Oh, hi, sweetie. What a nice surprise." I wasn't there for pleasantries. I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshots. "What is this? How did you transfer money from my account?" She didn't even try to act shocked. She glanced at the screen and said, "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't play dumb," I snapped. "These transfers are in your name. The money's gone, and it's sitting in your account. I want to know how you did it." That's when she dropped the act. With an exasperated sigh, like I was the one inconveniencing her, she said, "Look, Bella needed help, and you weren't willing to step up. So, we took care of it ourselves." "Took care of it?" I could barely process her words. "You stole from me. That money was for my house." "Oh, calm down," she said dismissively, waving her hand like I was being overly dramatic. "You're young. You have a good job. You'll save it back in no time. Bella's just starting out. She needs this more than you do." I stood there, completely floored, as my mom rambled on about how families should support one another and how selfish I was for keeping all that money to myself. Then Greg, who had been lurking in the doorway, decided to chime in. "You're overreacting," he said casually. "It's not like she spent it all. Bella just needed a little head start, that's all." A little head start? They had wiped out my entire savings, and they were treating it like it was spare change. I told them I wanted every penny returned immediately, or I was going to the police. That's when my mom smirked and said, "You wouldn't do that. I'm your mother. You don't want to cause a family scandal, do you?" "Oh, but I would," I shot back. I turned to leave, but Greg grabbed my arm. "You don't need to make this ugly," he said, trying to sound reasonable. "Just let it go, okay?" I yanked my arm free, glaring at him with disgust. "This is your last chance," I warned. "Give me my money back, or I'll make sure you regret it." Without waiting for a response, I walked out, got in my car, and headed straight to the police station. So, that's where things stand now. I filed a fraud report and handed over all the evidence I had. The bank is cooperating with the authorities, and my mom's account has already been flagged. I'm waiting to see what happens next, but one thing is clear: I'm not letting this slide. I know some people will say, "But she's your mom." To that, I say, being family doesn't give you a free pass to betray someone. If she thought stealing from me was acceptable, she can deal with the consequences. I'll keep you updated as things develop. Right now, I'm just trying to stay focused and keep it together. Update 2. Hey everyone, I'm back, and things have escalated way more than I anticipated. After filing the report, I thought I'd just be sitting around waiting for updates from the police. Turns out, that's not how this works. It's been a whirlwind, and let me tell you, my mom and Greg are not handling this well. Here's what happened after I left the police station. I handed over all the evidence I had, screenshots, bank statements, and even text messages from my mom after that dinner where she was digging into my finances. The detective assigned to my case was amazing. She listened carefully and didn't treat me like I was overreacting. She told me they'd freeze my mom's account during the investigation, which was a huge relief. At least I knew the money wasn't going anywhere. But when the police tried to contact my mom to inform her about the investigation, she denied everything. Not just the theft, she even denied discussing money with me. I don't know what she's talking about, she told them. She must be mistaken. Mistaken. Lady, I have receipts. Unfortunately for her, the bank had already flagged the transfers, and the money trail led straight to her account. When the police confronted her with this evidence, her story changed. Suddenly, it wasn't a mistake. It was a misunderstanding. Her new excuse? She had borrowed the money and fully intended to pay it back. Borrowed? Without asking? From your own child? Sure, that makes sense. While all of this was going on, Greg called me. I don't even know why I answered, but I guess I was curious about what he had to say. He started off with this fake, calm tone, like he was trying to play mediator. Look, he said, you're blowing this way out of proportion. Your mom is upset, and she never meant for things to go this far. Why don't we just drop the charges and figure this out as a family? Figure it out how? I asked. You give me my money back, and we pretend this never happened? Exactly, he said, like it was the most reasonable suggestion in the world. I couldn't hold back anymore. Greg, you and Mom stole over $100,000 from me. Do you have any idea what you've put me through? This isn't something I can just drop. You're both thieves, and you're going to face the consequences. That's when his tone shifted. He went from fake friendly to downright nasty. You think you're so high and mighty, don't you? He sneered. Living your little fancy life while your family struggles. You've always been selfish. Maybe this is karma. I hung up on him. I don't have time for people who think being family gives them the right to steal from me. A few days later, I got an update from Officer Taylor. They had officially frozen my mom's account, but here's the kicker. She had already transferred some of the money to a third account under Bella's name. Yep, they were trying to launder the money through my half-sister, probably hoping it wouldn't be traced. Now, to be clear, I don't know how much Bella was involved in this. She's a college kid, and while she's been a brat in the past, I never thought she'd stoop this low. When the police contacted her to question her about the account, she initially played dumb. I don't know anything about that, she said. But when I confronted her directly and pressed her harder, she let something slip. Mom and Greg told me they were helping me secure an apartment, she blurted out. They said you'd be okay with it. I was speechless. An apartment? With my savings? Bella, of course, had the nerve to look annoyed, as if I was the one causing problems. They kept insisting they hadn't spent all the money, claiming it was just a loan and that I probably wouldn't have noticed if they hadn't been caught. As more details emerged during the investigation, it became harder to buy into Bella's act of ignorance. The fact that a significant portion of the stolen funds had been funneled directly into her account wasn't just a coincidence, it was intentional. Her dismissive attitude when questioned only made it worse. I thought Mom was just helping me cover expenses, she told the police. But let's be real, she's in college and knows exactly how money works. At one point, she even had the audacity to defend the entire scheme to me. Mom just did what she thought was best for the family, she said. You could have helped willingly, but you didn't. So what was she supposed to do? as if stealing from me was somehow my fault. The fallout from all this was chaotic. My mom started calling every relative we have, spinning some sob story about how I was ruining her life and dragging the family's name through the mud. She told everyone I was exaggerating, claiming it was all a misunderstanding and that I was being cruel for involving the police. Here's the kicker. Most of the family didn't believe her. My dad, who has always been my rock, made sure the truth was known. He sent a mass email to the entire extended family, detailing the bank transfers, the police report, and even including some damning quotes from my mom where she admitted to taking the money. The responses were mixed. Some relatives stood firmly by my side, condemning my mom's actions as unforgivable. Others played the family should stick together card, as if I was somehow in the wrong for not sweeping this under the rug. Meanwhile, I started receiving anonymous messages on social media. They said things like, "You're a terrible daughter," and "How could you do this to your own mother?" I blocked every account, but I'm pretty sure Greg was behind them. He's exactly the type to think online harassment is a legitimate way to win an argument. Through it all, I stayed focused on the bigger picture. The investigation was moving forward, and the detective assured me that my case was strong, thanks to all the evidence I'd provided. Criminal charges against my mom seemed likely, especially since she lied during the initial questioning. As for the money, the bank had already begun the process of recovering it. They managed to freeze most of what was left in my mom's account, and were working on reclaiming the portion transferred to Bella's account. It'll take time, but at least I know I'll get it back eventually. In the meantime, I've taken extra precautions to protect myself. I changed all my passwords, enabled two-factor authentication on all my accounts, and even installed a security camera in my apartment. Paranoid? Maybe. But, after what happened, I'm not taking any chances. I'm also considering a restraining order against my mom and Greg. The idea of them barging into my life whenever they feel like it makes my skin crawl. They've already shown they don't respect boundaries, so I'm making sure they can't cross anymore. So that's where things stand. It's messy, stressful, and far from over, but I'm holding my ground. They thought they could walk all over me, but they underestimated how far I'm willing to go to protect what's mine. I'll update again when there's more to share. For now, I just want to thank everyone who's supported me through this insanity. You've helped me stay sane, and I can't express how much that means. CMP Themes, Justine Phone. Update 3. Hey everyone, I'm back with another update, and it's a big one. If you've been following my story, you know I reported my mom and stepdad for stealing my savings. Well, things have escalated in a major way. I'm writing this fresh from the courthouse because, yes, we went to court. And no, it didn't go the way my mom expected. Let me pick up where I left off. After my last update, the situation got even messier. The police completed their investigation and officially charged my mom with fraud and theft. When she received the notice, she completely lost it. She called me over 20 times in a single day. I didn't answer any of the calls but saved every voicemail. They were a mix of fake tears and veiled threats. "I can't believe you're doing this to your own mother," one message said. "You're tearing this family apart. Is this really how you want people to remember you?" Another one went, "You think you're so smart, don't you? You don't know how the world works, kid. You'll regret this when you realize what you've done." I forwarded every voicemail to my lawyer. If she was trying to guilt me, she picked the wrong tactic. I was done being the family doormat. The court date was scheduled quickly because the evidence against her was overwhelming. My bank provided all the documentation of the unauthorized transfers, and the police had statements from both me and my mom. She tried to plead innocence, claiming it was all a misunderstanding, but her lies unraveled fast. When I walked into that courtroom, I wasn't sure what to expect. I was nervous, sure, but mostly I was angry. Angry that I had to be there. Angry that my own mom had put me in this situation, and angry that she was still trying to paint herself as the victim. She showed up with Greg and Bella in tow. Bella wouldn't even make eye contact with me, but Greg had that same smug expression, like he thought they'd walk away scot-free. My mom played the role of the grieving victim perfectly. She wore a somber outfit, like she was attending a funeral, and kept dabbing her eyes with a tissue. When it was her turn to speak, she laid it on thick. "I'm just a mother trying to help her child," she said, her voice shaky. My daughter Bella was in a difficult situation, and I didn't think my other daughter would mind helping. It was never meant to be theft. It was a loan. "I fully intended to repay it," she insisted, but my lawyer didn't hold back. "Your Honor," he began, "the defendant claims she used the stolen funds for a down payment on a luxury apartment for her younger daughter, Bella. The plaintiff's entire savings were taken for this purchase without her permission." The tension in the room rose. Greg fidgeted uncomfortably in his seat, and Bella's face turned bright red. My mom, however, continued her charade of innocence, adding, "I thought it would be fine. Family helps family." I nearly laughed out loud. Helping family doesn't mean draining my entire savings account without a word. Then my lawyer presented the evidence, and her carefully constructed story fell apart. He showed screenshots of the transactions, emphasizing how they were marked as personal transfers. He even played voicemails she'd left me. The courtroom went silent as one particularly incriminating voicemail echoed through the room. "You think you're so high and mighty just because you have some money now? Don't forget where you came from, you ungrateful brat. Acting like you're better than us. You're just a wannabe riding on the coattails of people who actually matter." The judge didn't look amused. In fact, he looked outright irritated. Greg then attempted to interject. "Your Honor, this is just a family misunderstanding that's been blown way out of proportion. My wife—" The judge cut him off sharply. "You are not the defendant. Unless you are testifying under oath, you will remain silent." Greg's face turned crimson as he slumped back into his seat. Honestly, that was the highlight of my day. When it was my turn to speak, I kept my statement straightforward. I explained how I'd been saving for years, working hard to build a future for myself, and how betrayed I felt when I discovered my mom had taken everything without even asking. This wasn't about helping my sister, I told the court. This was about control. She couldn't handle me being independent and decided to take what wasn't hers. Family doesn't treat each other like this. The judge listened intently, nodding as I spoke. When I finished, he turned to my mom and said, "Your actions were not only unlawful, but also profoundly unethical. You betrayed your daughter's trust in an inexcusable way. This court finds you guilty of theft and fraud." Her sentence was suspended, meaning no jail time as long as she complied with the court's conditions. But the best part? She was ordered to repay every penny she stole within 30 days. If she didn't, her suspended sentence would convert into actual jail time. When the verdict was read, my mom looked like she'd been slapped. Greg muttered something under his breath, and Bella just stared at me. For a moment, I thought she might come over and apologize, but no. She just glared at me as if I'd ruined her life. After the hearing, Greg stormed up to me in the hallway. "This isn't over," he hissed. "You've humiliated us, and you'll regret it." I met his glare and replied, "The only thing I regret is trusting either of you. Stay out of my life." Then I walked away. The fallout has been intense. Most of my extended family has sided with me, especially after I sent a group text laying out the entire situation. When you stand your ground and take control of your life, people have little room to judge. And if anyone does, I'm ready to shut it down because I'm done with this nonsense. My dad came to court with me, and afterward, he hugged me and said, "You did the right thing, kid. I'm proud of you." That meant more to me than I can even express. Now, I'm just waiting for my money to be fully returned. The bank has already recovered about half of it, and my mom has repaid a significant portion. The remainder is due by the deadline, and if she doesn't pay up, well, that's no longer my problem. It's the courts. I've also filed for a restraining order against both her and Greg. I want nothing to do with them. No visits, no contact, and certainly no access to my accounts or life ever again. I'll update you when there's more progress, but for now, I feel like a huge weight has been lifted. This isn't the ending I wanted, but it's the one they forced me to create. Thanks for sticking with me through all of this. Final update. Hi everyone, it's been a chaotic journey, but I'm here with what's probably my last update. A lot has happened since the court ruling, and while things are finally settling down, the aftermath has been nothing short of wild. After the judge ordered my mom to repay the stolen money, I braced myself for more drama. You'd think being caught and dragged to court would have made her and Greg back off, but no, they're relentless. They even had the audacity to appeal the ruling, claiming the sentence was overly harsh and didn't consider family dynamics. The court swiftly shut them down. You stole the money. You admitted to it. Now pay it back, was essentially the response. Their appeal was denied almost immediately, and I thought that would be the end of it. But of course, it wasn't. A few days later, Bella started sending me passive-aggressive texts. Messages like, "Hope you're happy," "Mom's been crying non-stop, and it's all your fault," and "Do you even care what you've done to this family?" My personal favorite was, "You might have your money, but you've lost your family forever." At this point, there's nothing I could say to make them understand how twisted this entire situation is. I'm done trying. I've spent too much of my life bending over backward for people who clearly don't care about me. On the bright side, the bank transferred the final portion of my money back into my account last week. Seeing my savings restored was like finally being able to breathe after holding it in for months. While I'm still working on finalizing the restraining order, having my finances secure again feels like a huge step forward. Remember how some relatives tried to guilt me into dropping the case? One of them, my aunt, let's call her Karen because she's the stereotype, actually organized a family meeting to discuss rebuilding bridges. She called me up and said, "I think it's time for everyone to come together and heal. Your mom's been through a lot, and this situation has been hard on all of us." I almost laughed out loud. "You mean it's been hard on her because she got caught stealing?" I replied. I said, "And what exactly do you expect me to do, Karen? Pretend none of this ever happened?" Karen replied like I was being the unreasonable one. "It's not about pretending. It's about forgiveness. Family is family." Then maybe she should have acted like family instead of stealing from me, I shot back before hanging up. Apparently, Karen went around telling everyone I was being cold and vindictive. But to my surprise, most of the family didn't take her side. My dad's side, in particular, has been incredibly supportive. The biggest shock, though, came from Bella. About a week ago, she showed up at my apartment unannounced. I wasn't sure whether I should slam the door in her face or hear what she had to say, but I decided to open it. "What do you want, Bella?" I asked, crossing my arms. She was visibly upset. "I don't understand why you couldn't just let it go," she snapped as soon as the door was open. "Mom and Greg were just trying to make sure I had a place to live. It's not like you needed all that money right away. You're already doing fine." "Doing fine?" I couldn't believe her audacity. "They stole from me to get you an apartment, and now you're angry because I didn't let them get away with it?" "You're so selfish," she hissed. "It's just money. They did it for me." "Why don't you get off your ass, work for your own place, and stop expecting other people to hand everything to you?" I retorted. "That's my last bit of advice for you, and I don't want to see your face at my door again." Then I slammed the door. I'm done arguing with people who refuse to understand basic morality. As for my mom and Greg, they're still playing the victim. The last I heard, they were going around telling anyone who would listen that I'm a greedy, selfish child who's punishing them for no reason. I've blocked them on everything, so I only hear about their antics through others. Honestly, I couldn't care less anymore. Right now, I'm focused on moving forward. I'm officially under contract for a house, a cozy 3-bedroom not far from my dad's place. I've been working with a realtor and decorator to make it feel like home, and for the first time in months, I feel genuinely excited about something. Once I close on the house, I'm planning a housewarming party with the people who've supported me through all of this. My dad, my stepmom, my friends, and the relatives who've had my back. These are the people who truly deserve to be called family. I know this isn't the ending my mom probably imagined, but it's the one she created. She chose money over our relationship, and now she has to live with the consequences. Your advice and encouragement helped me find the strength to stand up for myself, and I'll always be grateful for that. If anything else happens, I'll be sure to update you. But for now, I'm ready to move on and leave this chapter of my life behind.